The Minnesota Vikings were one of the best teams in the NFL all season long, winning 14 games in the regular season, but unfortunately for the Vikings, that didn't even matter because in the biggest game of the year, wildcard matchup against the Los Angeles Rams, they fell short. And I think that the biggest reason is Sam Darnold. And I think what we learned from that game for the Minnesota Vikings is that Sam Darnold is not that guy. He is not the quarterback who is good enough to get you to a Super Bowl. He is not in that upper elite range of quarterback. And I think looking at Sam Darnold earlier in his career, going into Minnesota this season, I honestly thought it wasn't going to go as well as it did during this regular season. He had a history of being very inaccurate early in his career. And then he gets to Minnesota. He gets the best receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. That does not hurt. He gets one of the better play callers in the NFL in Kevin O'Connell. And he puts together a season that had many people wondering if, early in Sam Darnold's career, he just didn't have the right situation, the right players, the right coach, things like that. And winning 14 games, that's a team where you think, okay, Sam Darnold, he wasn't great early in his career. Maybe this is actually a time where this team around the Vikings, the solid defense, maybe this is a team that can actually do something come playoff time. But unfortunately, in one of the biggest, if not the biggest pressure situation in all of his career, Sam Darnold really crumbled under the pressure. And when we look at that game, he was holding the ball way too long. He was sacked 9 different times. Part of that is the offensive line's problem, but he was just inaccurate. You could tell that he just was not playing the same kind of football he had played all season long. And I would assume that when you have that pressure on your shoulders, where how you play in that game, that wild card game against the Los Angeles Rams, is going to be a major factor in how you were seen as a quarterback in the NFL in the next couple seasons, how you're going to get paid as a quarterback. And it looked like the pressure was just too much for him, and he reverted back to a lot of his prior mistakes from earlier in his career, just missing some wide open guys, holding the ball way too long, not doing well under pressure. And when we look at how much he was pressured in this game, the offensive line did not do him, much good or much help at all. He was pressured per PFF on 54% of his dropbacks, had a 54.5 passer rating when pressured. You compare that to Lamar Jackson, he was pressured 53.8% of his dropbacks, had a 123.1 passer rating. And so I think the thing is, come playoff time, you really need to have an elite quarterback if you really want to make a deep playoff run. And Sam Darnold, unfortunately for the Vikings organization, is not an elite quarterback. And so when you look at, where does the blame go? I do not think that Kevin O'Connell deserves a majority of the blame. I think that to be competitive come playoff time in the NFL and win a Super Bowl, you have to have an elite quarterback, and Sam Darnold is not an elite quarterback. He had a great regular season, the 6th highest passer rating. Kevin O'Connell did really as much as he could do with Darnold, and he played really well all season long, but sometimes it may just be that a guy can have some regular season success, can even play well against really good defenses, and yet in big pressure moments, the reality can be seen pretty clearly that some guys just aren't ready to handle that kind of pressure. And that's not to say that Sam Darnold can't do it in the future. I still think he had a really good season. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. He's just not in that upper tier, upper echelon range, which I do think you most times need if you really want to win a Super Bowl. And so I think when you look at Kevin O'Connell and the job he's done in Minnesota during his first 3 seasons, to make the playoffs year 1, win 13 games, you lose to the Giants, which is not a great situation there. But then this year, to make Sam Darnold what he was, I think a big part of it does have to do with Kevin O'Connell and the offense he calls. But at some point, when your quarterback is holding onto the ball too long, when he's, throwing balls behind players, that has zero to do with Kevin O'Connell and his play calling. And so I think that in the long run, this honestly may be a blessing in disguise for Kevin O'Connell's future long term, because if Sam Darnold had gone in there and played a really great game, and then let's say next week in the divisional round plays similarly to how he did here today, you could be convinced okay, maybe Darnold, he played well his first playoff game, the next game wasn't good enough, maybe next season if we bring him back once again, he's going to take some other kind of step forward. And so I think you saw what you have in Sam Darnold in big pressure situations come playoff time. And as I said, I don't necessarily think that he can't ever get over that hump, but it's going to be really tough to make deep playoff runs when you're playing guys like Matthew Stafford, who is a very, very good quarterback. If you were to make it to a Super Bowl, facing off against Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, so much of success in the NFL is based on quarterback play. And coaches are very much judged on how good their quarterbacks end up being. And I think that, let's say Kevin O'Connell had Josh Allen in this game, or Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes, or some of these other quarterbacks, odds are it wouldn't have gone like it did with Sam Darnold in this one. And so that's why I think that, looking at the long term now for the Vikings organization, you drafted JJ McCarthy for a reason. And this does, I think, give you the opportunity to move off of Sam Darnold if you want to. I think when you look at his regular season, it's awesome and it's great. And I think that the issue that some teams in the NFL have is that they value that so much that they think, okay, eventually this guy will get over the hump in the playoffs, and sometimes it happens. But it does remind me a lot of Dak Prescott, who's a very good regular season QB, but come playoff time, sometimes the pressure is just too much for him, and that may just be what happened here with Sam Darnold in this season. And so I do think that looking ahead, there is some more uncertainty with JJ McCarthy because Sam Darnold did help you win 14 games. And so I think bringing back Sam Darnold once again, I think you could have a similar season, maybe not 14 wins, but 10 to 14 wins if your defense is still a top 10 defense and you have Sam Darnold. You could still play really good football, but do you trust him come playoff time? And after watching what he did against the Lions to end the season and then in the first round of the playoffs, I do not trust Sam Darnold come playoff time. And so personally, if I were a decision maker there, I would move off of him, move to JJ McCarthy, not just because Darnold struggled in this playoff game, but also because the difference in pay, the difference when it comes to cap hit, you have JJ McCarthy on a rookie deal, and with him coming into his second season, that's a couple of years you have him with, some of the cheapest money being spent at quarterback in the NFL. And you can use the money you'd free up by not, franchise tagging Sam Darnold, giving him an extension. You can use that money to build your team up around JJ McCarthy, who has a chance to be better than Sam Darnold. And when you look at the Vikings and their cap situation, $70.5 million in cap space for 2025, sixth most cap space in the NFL. I do think you have an opportunity with a great head coach in Kevin O'Connell and JJ McCarthy with a lot of potential. By saving money, by not bringing back Sam Darnold, I think you do have a much better chance in the long run. But that's all I have for today. If you want more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.